Yo, what it is, YouTube? Is your boy Nixie coming back with another bullseye of a video here today on the channel. I wanted to ask y'all a question. Do you guys like the sound of your recorded voice? Lately, I kind of been getting back into rapping again. And, I kind of been conflicted a little bit, right? Trying to, get a sound that I like. A lot of the times, when you first are starting to make music, you're playing around with different microphones, different preamps, different compressors, trying to get, the sound that you like to fit on your voice. But right now, for the first time in my life, I've been actually having this problem where I actually kind of don't like the way that my vocals is sounding lately. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I feel like maybe I might know too much about mixing and I'm overthinking it. But do you guys have problems with the sound of your voice? Sometimes it could kind of be coming down to your microphone. I kind of think about microphones almost like a pair of shoes. Not every shoe fits somebody's foot a certain way, the style, even though it's the right size shoe. Sometimes like, a shoe might be too long or too short. It just don't look right on certain people's foot. Maybe their foot is too wide and the shoe is too narrow. So, it's the same thing like that when it comes to making music. Trying to get something that really fits your voice. I think it's also important too to understand like what is the profile of your voice. Do you have like a deep voice? Do you have a high voice? Do you have a soft voice, a hard voice, a voice that is naturally harsh, a voice that is naturally, cutting through the mix already? I feel like that's a certain type of stuff that is very important to know because that will determine what type of plugins that you're going to use, what approach you're going to have when it comes to processing your vocal. So what is like the biggest struggle for y'all in terms of like getting that pro vocal sound that y'all want? I know a lot of times people might have a certain artist that they like, to achieve that certain type of sound, like No Cap or Little Baby or Cardi, and they watch a lot of videos and tutorials, based on that type of artist. But what they forget a lot of the times is that the starting point might not be the same exact way. You know what I mean? The starting line that you're on when it comes to the track. You know how like a track where people run on, the lines are all different. You feel me? Type stuff like that. The starting points are all different. So because the starting point is different, you might have to process your stuff a different way. You might want to get a Cardi sound, but you don't have that same voice like Cardi, especially that new Cardi, bruh. His voice is like deep. Even Yeet, his voice is low. It's kind of low. So you might be trying to achieve that sound, trying to get that same distortion sound, but might not understand that sometimes people who have a deep voice, the way the deep voice hits a clipper, it distorts in a different way from somebody who has a high voice, that's going into a clipper or whatever, a distortion plugin. It's going to distort it differently. So you have to compensate differently for that. So how do you guys feel about your vocal? Do you feel like, oh, you're confident about your vocal and that, you just already mastered it? You got the perfect chain for your vocal. You just feel great. You've already got the perfect analog hardware chain for your vocal. And that's another thing too, right? The preamp, the whole chain that you use is going to be different for everybody. Like the preamp that you use, the compressor that you use, all those things combined is like a conveyor belt. It's like you're making a soup and you put in certain carrots, you put in certain vegetables and certain chicken and stuff like that. You're making a chicken soup. And like the different type of ingredients that you put inside of the pot, which is like the whole vocal recording, from the time that you record into the microphone, it hits the DAW, hits the vocal template, the plug-in chain. The way you cooking up that soup, it's gonna have a different taste based on the ingredients that you have. But the biggest ingredient, right, between chicken soup and beef soup is your voice. Like the meat is the biggest ingredient between those different soups. So right, your voice is a different ingredient compared to other artists that you might want to get that sound like. So what do you guys think? Do you have a certain sound that you want to go for? What is like the biggest struggle that you're having with your voice? Because nobody off rip since day one is just gonna automatically love the sound of their voice, and they just got it all figured out. So how do you guys feel about situations like that, where your voice is like maybe it's like a little bit not, it doesn't have enough weight. So the people who their voice doesn't have enough weight, it doesn't have enough tubbiness, like it always feels thin. Maybe you have to approach EQing your vocal different. Sometimes you got to let a little bit of the stomach fat hang out, which is like the low end, which is like the low mid. It might sound a little bit mucky, But you have to understand that you need to preserve more of that stuff in your vocal to make it sound full towards the end of the, the result of the song. Especially when it comes to like skinny people who have skinny vocals, you got to address that. You got to listen to your vocal. Like, is my vocal skinny? You got to be honest with yourself. Sometimes you might want to use like a saturation plugin. Use something like Decapitator on the A mode and the drive that will give you more thickness. Use something like Spectre. Use something like the Pultec. Use something like Tube, like a Fairchild, something that got a transformer in it. Even the Neve 1073 or a CL1B that has like transformer in it or a tube in it. Not the Neve. The Neve don't got a tube, but the CL1B got a tube. That in itself is gonna add that warmth. It's gonna add the harmonic density. Maybe even a tube microphone, like a Telefunken 251, warm audio clone or something like that. Understanding the components inside of the stuff that you buy is important because that's gonna allow you to better tailor your vocal chain to your voice. For the people who have like nasally type of vocals, maybe you got to understand, like, man, I got to get a little bit more aggressive in my mid range. Okay, but I can't get too aggressive because I don't want it to sound hollow. Maybe I got to use a multi-band. Maybe I got to use Fab Filter Pro MB or something like Soothe or something like C6 to only control that nasaliness on certain words where it kind of gets out of hand. Or maybe I want to use something like a Fab Filter Pro Q3 or a Pro Q4 using active EQ or F6, something like that to just notch out just that specific nasally frequency that's in your voice only for certain parts where it gets overwhelming. For all the people who have harsh voices, what are some ways that you try to, address that harshness? You might want to use like a tape plugin. Using a tape plugin, knowing damn well that that tape is gonna smooth off the high end for you, getting rid of that some of that natural harshness. Some people got a natural lisp. You got a natural lisp and you got a good microphone. That good microphone is gonna pick up on all that nasty stuff. Some people got a nasally voice, right? And then they want to get a C800 like Drake, not understanding that it's gonna bring it out even more. Like if you got like a scab or you cut yourself and then you throw alcohol on it, and you like, that bit hurt even more. It hurts even more because the alcohol is amplifying the pain of that scar. Just like how a C800 gonna amplify all the high end in somebody's voice, anybody's voice, especially somebody who got a harsh voice off rip, that little lisp. So it's all about self-diagnosis. You kind of got to be like a doctor, a musical doctor. When you listen to your raw vocal, you got to take a step back and listen to it like as it's not you, you know? I once heard this thing that they say like the way you think your voice sounds is not what it really sounds like. Now, of course, when you talk, that's different because your voice is in your body. But actually, when you record it, I'm sure it's probably the same thing psychologically. You might think that your voice is bad when it's actually pretty fucking good, and you just need to make a couple of methodical moves, a couple of tweaks here and there to get that bit sounding really good and on point. You feel me? So I always think about it in a situation like that of self-diagnosis when it comes to your vocal. So what is the main problem that y'all are having with your voices? You feel me? Is the auto tune not smooth enough? I actually feel like analog hardware will help with auto tune. I used to say it doesn't, but it does though, because it's soft saturating the vocal. The tube is soft saturating the vocal. The transistors, the analog components are soft saturating the vocal. Like if you had like a chicken tender and you started to tenderize it, you hit it with a hammer. Now the meat is a little bit softer. It's the same thing, when it comes to your voice, because your voice is now a little bit softer. The auto tune is getting a little bit of a softer signal. Now it's going to be a little bit smoother. So I do believe that as well. I used to always say it doesn't make a difference, but it does make a difference for auto tune though, because it's smoothing out the waveform. Now you could achieve that in the DAW as well. Maybe you want to put your auto tune towards the end of the chain. Once you've deharshed some things, you've taken out some nasty resonances that will, make the auto tune glitch up and work a little bit too hard. So that's another great way to get your auto tune to sound a little bit better, to get your rap vocals to sound a little bit better, get your R&B vocals to sound a little bit better. You feel me? Is maybe putting the auto tune towards the end of the chain, you know? So that's pretty much the end of the video here today on the channel. I just wanted to talk about certain stuff, about if you don't like the sound of your voice. Because I'm kind of going through that right now. It's not that I don't like the sound of my voice, Because as y'all can see on the YouTube videos, I can do any voice that I want to do. But I'm just I'm having a problem right now with sounding like myself. You feel me? And sound like the way I want to sound like. You feel me? So I just kind of related that to y'all. And that's why I wanted to make this video here today. You know, there's a difference between liking the sound of your voice and liking the sound of your music, you know, over like the beat and stuff like that creatively. That's kind of what I'm going through. So I just wanted to connect with y'all today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If y'all like these discussion videos, drop it down below how you feel about your voice. What type of voice do you have? Do you feel like you're able to properly diagnose your voice? Sometimes you got to ask a friend, get a different set of ears to get rid of that personal bias that you have, because anybody gonna have a personal bias, all right, whether it's negative or positive. So thanks a lot for being a great part of my YouTube family. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Support the channel. Check the links in the comments. Let me know what you think about your voice. Appreciate y'all now. Peace.